You very much, Mary Beth, and I'd like to extend my thanks as well to my fellow panelists and to those listening today for the opportunity to present our citizen-driven national public service, which trains citizens in their beyond the ballot power. Now, what that means in a nutshell is in the 21st century, new laws that give citizens access to their town's policies, often just virtually or through the internet, and give them the opportunity to present solutions, have given a new status to citizens that most aren't aware of. And technology has turbocharged that, giving the ability to find evidence-based solutions in other communities that might be imported into your own city, and the ability to share those solutions across the country for even more impact. So what happened? How did we get to this? It might give a little context and be helpful. I came from an economically challenged background and got lucky and got to go to college first in my family. And when I was at college, I decided to work off my privilege a bit by teaching reading at the local reform school. And I engaged with the superintendent in developing a program that showed great promise to reduce recidivism. So he took me to the state legislature. Now, I was a religious studies major, I had no political background or connections. No one in my family had political connections, but we listened to the state legislators review the program and then say, well, we don't have enough money to even send our kids to the ball game. Why should we fund this program? And I came back home and told my wife-to-be that this was insane because there would be so much savings and reduce incarceration and parole costs, and why couldn't they see that? And she started laughing at me. She had a background in politics and government and said, look, if you think a common sense solution is going to self-effect, you're going to have to learn some things. You're going to have to learn law and politics and government. So I switched careers, left the religious studies major, went to law school, not to learn how to be a lawyer, but to learn how to develop fair and common sense policy into law and get it adopted. And I also worked as a top staffer for Senator Bill Bradley when he first came up. So I learned a little politics there. And I served in a number of government positions and had this knowledge that needed to be shared with people. So we started in my wife's church, New Hope Baptist basement, to do some training. And it went on from there to several other Baptist churches. I don't know if any of you know of Reverend Buster Soaries, but First Baptist of Lincoln Gardens, and then Bethany Baptist in Newark, and so on. And we realized we had something, but we had to make it more accessible and more substantial. And so we formed the nonprofit, got lucky in the beginning, and Derek Bach, who had just retired as president of Harvard, came onto our board. And using his big credible name, we were able to put together a team of 50 practitioners with exceptional records for success in getting laws adopted at the local level, usually in urban communities, school board, mayor and council, could be planning board, whatever, but they had good records. And we put together what we call a program in no blame, pragmatic problem solving. The no blame is from Dr. King. The policy of non-violence was what he used to be able to keep the focus on the solution. And if you're going to push solutions that bring about change in society, you need to keep the focus on them. So we take a no blame approach. The pragmatic side has three aspects, three criteria. The solutions have to be based on evidence of success in a similar city. So we're really teaching people to steal good ideas that are working in cities similar to their own and import them. They have to be budget neutral or better. That's the second criterion. So you're not going to get into a tax and spend a problem. And by the way, most municipal governments that I know can't print money. So it's a good way to go. And finally, and last but not least, because we're teaching public service, we want the solution to benefit the community as a whole, not just be special interest. So let me just give you an example of one solution, and then I'll turn it back to Mary Beth. One of our trainees, Samantha Castro, led a protest of 1,000 people when George Floyd occurred. And she wanted to bring attention to the warrior culture of the police department of the city that she lived in. She then came to us, actually went to the NAACP, and the president was one of our trustees and sent her over to us. And she learned the no blame pragmatic problem solving. She found a study that showed that nationally police officers receive 8 hours of force training for every 1 hour of de-escalation training. And the study showed that increased de-escalation training would not only virtually eliminate excessive use of force, but it would reduce police injuries by 36% as well. And it would save the city money because there's less use of force lawsuits to eat up the money with damages and settlements and so on. Samantha now has become chair of her own city's police advisory board, and she's developed a measuring technique to measure the progress toward a guardian culture and increased de-escalation that she's now working on with the Yale Center for Policing to promulgate among urban police departments across the country. So that's the idea. There's more power in no blame problem solving beyond the ballot than most people realize, and ballot power is important, but it's not enough. So I'll end there. I'll tell you about some of the options for using our tools at the end of this, but I'll turn it back to Mary Beth at this point, and thank you for listening.